If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune in to our YouTube channel for more content. The link is in the description.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast.
Every culture on Earth has legends and tales of beings who came from the sky, who imparted to early man great knowledge, then eventually left. Knowledge that perhaps once helped our ancestors to survive at crucial times. Knowledge that they would use to construct great cities and cultures, and eventually, after countless millennia, to wage war against each other and forget their true origins. Are today's visitations by these same sky beings that once imparted this wisdom to our ancestors? And why now? Are they, as some believe, attempting to not only announce themselves to us, but to get us to understand our true potential before it's too late? Reverend Michael J. Carter from the hit series Ancient Aliens joins us to talk about his experience and research in the field and share with us some of the possible reasons and the purpose for these visitations. From ancient contact to modern UAP phenomena, we look at it all tonight on this episode of Wild and Weird Radio.
Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. It has been a wild couple weeks, but we have an amazing show set up for you today. So remember, go hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons right now. If you're on YouTube, mash those as hard as you can. If you're listening to us via podcast, remember, hit subscribe and download. That way every week you get an update and an alert that goes straight to your phone that lets you know that our content is ready for you to listen to. So without further ado, I
No
say we
news
dive into
tonight.
this show, guys.
No news tonight. Much more important stuff. Joe, ramble on.
Well, today we have a very special guest for you guys. We have Reverend Michael Carter. If you're not familiar with who he is the author of 4 books: Alien Scriptures, The Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, A New World If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness, God Consciousness, a 30-day meditation manual to God-centered thinking, and the metaphysics of spiritual healing and the power of affirmative prayer. He has also been a long-time experiencer. Reverend Carter lectures extensively on the topic of religion and UFOs. He is featured on Sci-Fi Channel's Steven Spielberg's production of Abduction Diaries, the documentary film The Real 4400, the Travel Channel's production of UFOs, The Hidden Evidence, and our personal favorite. He is a frequent guest on History Channel's Ancient Aliens. He's also, I think the most recent episode that we've seen you on was the episode featuring William Shatner. Do Ancient Astronaut Theorists agree and say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that felt good.
Yes, they do.
Good. All right. Well, guys, we've got a great show. We're super excited to have Reverend Michael with us. This is going to be a blast.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, sir.
Oh, listen, it's good to be here. It's always good to be, on shows. I know you know this, but you're changing people's awareness. You're making them expand their consciousness, and that's what we need now. And shows like this are crucial, especially as we move forward in these times, because you're gonna have to buckle up your seatbelt. It's gonna get a little wild here.
Yeah. Agreed.
Couldn't
Yeah,
agree
it really
more.
is.
Yeah.
But it has to. You know, the old way of doing things is not working anymore. And so now we got all this turbulence and, you know, you don't know what's coming, but you know, you can't go back to what we had because that's not working. So here we are.
Absolutely right. So I think we'd kind of be remiss if we started off this show without asking one of our favorite questions to ask guests. Now, I know a lot of people are familiar with your work; they've seen you on TV and heard you on various other shows. But for our listeners who might not be familiar, explain to everybody what it was that brought you into this genre, what it was that interests you into the this whole weird, well,
Yeah.
wild, weird world we're in.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I was raised in the African American Baptist tradition, and my parents are very religious, and um, that was just my background coming up, and a lot of that was, I believe, it may have been a past life bleed through, but I always felt comfortable in places of worship. I just always did, and so. And that's where, you know, I was kind of grounded. Whether it was a mosque, whether it was the Catholic Church, I mean, I visited all these denominations and worshiped there. I did not believe in UFOs or anything related to it. I didn't watch Star Trek. Literally, about 4 years ago, I just started watching Star Trek, and now I'm hooked. I watched Deep Space Nine. But I'm glad that I didn't prior to this, because then people would say, oh man, you saw that on TV. That's how you got that. So, you know, the universe, there's an intelligence out there. Um, you know, Kierkegaard says that life is lived forward, but it's only understood backwards. And so when I was a child, I didn't have any vocabulary for it, any nomenclature for it, but I used to wake up at night with blood on my pillow. And I thought that maybe my ears were bleeding, but I later found out that I was having nosebleeds. And I would sit in my room and I would see these little orbs, and they looked like donuts, but they were different colors. Almost, looking back now, they were like the colors of chakras: blue, red, yellow, that kind of stuff. And I could see the three-dimensionality of space. Like I could be stared, like if I'm in my room now, and I could see the depth and the width. It was just very strange, but I thought, because I was so young, I thought everybody saw this. I saw auras around things and around people. So we jump ahead to 1989, which was the game changer for me. I was in Mexico with my girlfriend at the time. We decided to go see the pyramids at Chichen Itza and Tulum. And you know, we went right on the Yucatan, man. And it's just amazing. The whole thing with the Maya and where they were getting this information. And so, you know, and it was December 28th, 1989. I got back to New York City because I lived there for almost 30 years. And Sandy, my girlfriend at the time, she said, I'm going to go home. I'm tired. We landed at Kennedy, but I had been invited to a party. And so it was in Hell's Kitchen. So I just caught the subway down. I wanted to show off my tan. I was all, like this, copper color. It was beautiful. And I wanted to gloat because they were freezing their what's off in Manhattan. So I got there, and there were no alcoholic beverages there. If anything, I probably overindulged with deviled eggs. I love them. God forgive me, I love them so much. And so I went back home. And that night, I don't know to this day whether I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I don't remember that. Or I just felt a presence in the room. But I got up, and I sleep on my stomach. Anyway, I turned around, and there was a being at the foot of the bed that was about 3-4 feet tall. Now we know who and what that is. Had on a jumpsuit that looked like Reynolds wrap, like the. I'm 65. I may be dating myself. I don't know if you ever saw Lost in Space, but it was there's like a Reynolds wrap suit. big head. He wasn't gray, or she wasn't gray, just kind of chalk whitish, big eyes, kind of Ray-Ban eyes. And listen, I have been in some scary situations coming up, but I was never so scared. And Sandy just didn't wake up. She wouldn't wake up. And this individual stared at me. I stared at it. I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. I pulled the covers up over my head and got in the fetal position. I'm not a macho man, brother. And so I heard this. This was on the 15th floor of the Excelsior Hotel. It's still there, and on the Upper West Side, right across the street from the planetarium between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West. So it wasn't in, out in the woods like Benny and Barty Hill. This was in Manhattan. Sure. And I heard this whoosh, whoosh, like it was windy or something. And what was even more strange was that it got really cold, like I was outside. And I pulled the covers down and nobody was there. Nobody. It was like the sounds of silence. I woke Sandy up, and she's a deeply spiritual person. She didn't say, "What are you, nuts?" She just said, okay, just dial it back. And I was wired. I told a friend of mine who was an astrologer, and she said, why don't you go down to Alphabet City tomorrow? She said, go down to Avenue D and 4th Street. And she said, you're going to see a mural and you're going to see some paintings or street art. Tell me if what you saw looked like. And I went down there and somebody had painted pictures of grays. So I got back and I told her. That gave me a little, I was still holding on to reality, but just by my fingertips. And they started coming every full and new moon. I would be paralyzed, okay? And they wouldn't talk. It was like I had speakers in my head. The lips wouldn't move. They would just, they would communicate that way. They would show me pictures. They showed me a picture of a past life. They showed me something that was going to happen in the future, which did. And during this, so that was for about 8 months. Every full and new moon, like clockwork. They always came when Sandy was at work, except for that one time. Interestingly enough, when I wrote this book last year, Initiation, and I sent her a copy, she still lives in New York, we're still very good friends. And she said, you know what? When I was reading the book, it brought back that night. And she said, I remember these little shadowy beings in the bedroom. But my mind kept saying, go to sleep. It's okay, just go to sleep. I said, yeah, because I tried to wake you up. I mean, so that's how. And the way I'm wired, at least in this lifetime, is that I don't care about propulsion systems or back engineering. I mean, greater minds than I, they know how to work with that. I'm wired that I want to know the change that takes place. Once you look at one of these beings in the eyes, as I'm sure you guys know, it's a whole different world. And so I'm more interested in the spiritual, if I can use that word, transformation that can occur, because everybody doesn't have it. Some people, they've had, anal probes and sperm and ovum taken. I mean, I take those very seriously. But there's also a positive side, at least it was with me, even though I still have post-traumatic stress and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm focused on, because I think the problems that we have today are more spiritual problems. And it's not always religion. Sometimes they're different, sometimes they're not. But so I'm always looking at that, because in order to deal with the challenges we face, we're going to have a whole different way of living and dealing with life and what it means to be human and even beyond human. So I'm more interested in that than I am in lights in the sky, even though I think that's important. But everybody, like Paul says, everybody has their gift, and
right.
I'll work on this part and you work on that part, and we'll come together.
Sure. That is in my opinion, it's one of the most compelling, I guess we call it an origin story in pop culture, modern pop culture's words, um, in this field of research. It to me, it that is a very real experience that you described, and the way it has influenced your work and where you've gone since then, as opposed to and I'm not trying to discredit any other stories, but yours, what you just spoke about, seemed so real and seemed so authentic, and not showy, so to speak.
They're
Yeah,
not showy.
So that was a uh very authentic encounter. Um, so the next, I think, question is that I know our listeners, because we did put out a poll, and our listeners are going to be getting some of their questions throughout the show.
Oh, great, great.
One of them was asking, and this came from the Bigfoot Society. He sent in two questions. We might get to the second one, but I definitely want to get to this one. What was it that interested you first in the ancient astronaut theory?
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess what's the old adage? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, when the student's ready, the teacher can disappear as well. But when it was like the right book started coming to me, the right people, once I was open, once I said yes to the experience. And, I was in therapy and, it was tough and, with relationships and stuff. Fortunately, the relationships I was in, my partners, they never said that wasn't, relationships broke up, divorces and stuff, but it wasn't because of that. Because there's data that shows that, with relationships, if one person's having these experiences, then the other one isn't. It's kind of hard to keep it together.
Sure.
But when I said, okay, if these people visited me in 1989 AD or CE or whatever we call it now, then they must have been here in 1989 BC or BCE.
Yeah.
And even beyond that. And then I start Barry Downing, who's my good friend and colleague, and back in 1968, another clergy person, not an experiencer, but he wrote The Bible and Flying Saucers.
Yeah.
And I started saying, oh my God. So now there's a pioneer I can start to follow. I got some books here. There's R.L. Dion wrote a book where he's not a minister called The Bible, Does God Drive a Flying Saucer?
Yes.
Virginia Brasington, Flying Saucers in the Bible. So we got some female energy in the house. And she was from right here in Asheville, North Carolina. C.L. Turnage, who's since passed away. She was in Texas. She was a Stitchin disciple. Beautiful, and reminded me of Marilyn Monroe. Very down to earth, though. She wrote. I mean, she went beyond where Stitchin went. And I met Zachariah Stitchin in New York because he lived not too far from me, and I have all his books. He got me going. That's what got me going because I got it tied into religion, because that's where my mind goes. And so I read everything I could. I still get stuff, but I read everything I could, whether it was Christianity, whether it was Buddhism, Native American spirituality, whether it was about the Vimanas and Hinduism. And I said, boy, all these cosmologies, all these stories, all these cultures have stories about people coming down from the sky, some of them bringing foolishness, but some of them bringing knowledge and wisdom and foolishness. And I said, well, it's not a mass hallucination. So everything I was taught about history is mostly wrong about our origins. And that started me on this quest, if you will. And at the same time, I was still having these experiences. Sometimes there were years in between. July 4th, 2013, I don't want to leave. He's right over here. A blonde-haired brother, real built. I have a sculpture made of the people who visited me. I should have just set him here before the thing. But anyway, he healed a blood clot in my leg. and it was very dramatic. And I had to go tell the doctor. I didn't tell the doctor what happened. They would have locked me up. But he was like, "Wait a minute, you were just here a week, 10 days ago, and now your blood clot's gone." So I had to navigate that, and um, and I just kind of try to keep it real in the sense of I don't have any grandiose. Um, I'm on this mission, and no, I mean we're all on a mission, and to learn to love and all that. But you don't have to have someone from a UFO teach you that, or you know. So I'm not special in that way. I just wanted to let people know that everybody, that they're not all mean, that they're not all going to violate you, that you can have some trauma, but if you get through the trauma, there's good on the other side of it. Not all the time, but for me it was. It's like if I was here and let's say, I live in the Bible Belt, and let's say somebody used the N word, okay? And then I said, everybody down here is racist. They all use the N word. Well, that's BS. And so just because you may have had a bad experience, but that doesn't mean every species is giving you a bad experience. It doesn't mean every white brother and sister is racist because I'm down here. So that's I wanted to balance that because we do that so easily. And that's why we're going to kill each other if we don't stop.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go off on that
Yes.
tangent, but you get what I'm saying.
Yep. 100%.
So, that's my message. My message is always going to be about love. Always.
I think that's
Always.
what the message should be about, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have choices, and it does seem like whatever this thing is, whatever this force, field, whatever this is, this intelligence,
Yeah.
it changes people, like you've
It
noted.
does. It
And
does. And it can change you for not,
yeah,
I get it. I get it. I just wanted to balance the narrative. Einstein said that the most important question we can ask ourselves is the universe a friendly place? Because the way you answer that question is going to be the way you live your life.
Yeah.
And if you say that it's not, then you're going to draw that. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy because we know, right? This is not philosophy, this is physics. What you focus on, you create. It's like when I started, I was raised with a lot of scarcity. It was a lot of money and always worried about money in my house. And then when I started studying metaphysics and new thought and what have you, you change your focus. You don't focus on being broke. You focus on the abundance. If you want to stop wars, you don't focus on war. You start focusing on peace, the world you want to create. And that's just physics. That's not philosophy. And so I just started applying that to my life. And sometimes I forget it, but basically, whatever I wanted in my life, I always got, both positive and negative. Because the universe just reflects back the vibration, the frequency that you are. And so if you're coming from this negative place, that's what your experience is going to be. I mean, Buddha said it 500 years before Jesus that we are what we think.
manifestation, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, those are terms that for years I always looked at as, oh, that's kind of out there, But like you made it clear that once you have these experiences, your mind opens up to this whole different level and you
And
think
it can't
outside
go
the
back.
box.
You can't
No,
go
you
back.
can't. You can't because you see it. You see the bigger picture, and either you meet people like yourself who understand what you're talking about, or you meet people who think you're crazy. It's just one or the other.
Right.
And I honestly believe that it is about people just meeting and validating. I think validation is one of the strongest things that draws these people together. What do the experiences mean? I have no idea. But I
I
do
think it's
believe.
what we make them mean, because they're going to mean something different to Jessi than it will to me, maybe not, but it is what
Mhm.
the experience, because it's your experience, it's not anybody else's. So you're going to give meaning to it.
So you mentioned earlier, that you approach things with an openness, and your heart is with love, and your intention is with love and openness to all of these subjects. Do you think that's why you are an experiencer? Is because you are open to it and you approach everything in life with an open heart and an open mind, that it opens you up to having these experiences?
I think, Jessi, it's a great question. I think that it makes it easier. I mean, I know people who've had these experiences that are very close-minded, and that's what shattered their reality. And there are other factors, I don't know for certain. I had a psychic tell me once that I know these people from Atlantis and from Egypt. There is a familiarity with some of them, but that can't be proven. You can only go by what resonates with you. But I know for me, my life is easier when I say yes to it, whether it's relationship, whether it's economics, you know, so I don't have an answer to that. Again, because I know people who are not as open and they've had these experiences. But I know for me, when I say yes to a new experience, sometimes very, very frightening, because I was frightened, believe me. But it
There's a
just
reason. There's
just
a
to say
reason all
yes
of
to
these
life, it's
encounters.
just you're open.
There's a reason all these encounters begin with "Do not be afraid."
Yes, yeah, and
And
I
we're just
feel
not good
like
at listening,
saying,
are we?
hey man, that's easy for you to say. You just walked in my house, and look how you look.
Yeah.
But you look kind of bizarre to me. But um, I don't know. I just know that I try to be open, and sometimes I get hurt, but that's part of it. But my life flows better when I say yes.
I think it's a great answer.
I don't know any
It's
other way.
positive. Well, it's positive, and I
Yeah.
really think that that's a big deal. I think the idea is that the more positive we are, yeah, we kind of do create these positive outcomes for ourselves,
Yeah,
for
I
the
don't want
people
to be
around us.
Pollyanna. I mean, there's some things,
Yeah.
like I said, when I was in New York, I was, even though Bud Hopkins and I were friends. But Bud at that time, his support group was the people who were traumatized.
Yes.
And I was in more with John Mack and with my friends there. Harold Eglin had a wonderful support group. And we would meet once in a while, and it was like oil and water in some ways, because they thought we were kind of like weird, and we thought they were all grouchy, negative, but we were both right,
Yep.
and it made me more accepting. I was very, very afraid, and for 20-25 years, I wouldn't turn the light out to go to sleep. Sometimes now I do that too, as if the light in my room is going to keep them from coming. But it started to dawn on me, Michael, these people, bizarre that they are, because I've seen reptilians, Arcturians, um, the praying mantis, these Nordic people, and these little gray brothers and sisters. I've seen, those are the races I have seen. But as walking through my wall, that kind of stuff, but they never intentionally hurt me. And so I had to say, Michael, where else in your life do you let fear stop you from connecting? Because yes, one time they hurt me I think it was by mistake. Uh, and I even said, that's not okay. And there was an adjustment. We can get into that later if you want. But the lesson, they never said, well, you got to do this and you got to be a minister and you got to teach Reiki and they never said that. I was led to those things. I was working on those things before they came, just, tilling the field of my own interior life, but they never hurt me. If anything, my life got better. It's just that it was just so bizarre. And I couldn't sleep at night because I knew if it was a full moon, they were going to come. And well, I was not, it was a hot mess, but they never really hurt me. I had to learn to navigate and walk in two worlds because I wasn't telling folks.
Yeah.
Now people in my church, I mean, it's not a UFO church. I've had people come to my church. We were just in Asheville and we wanted to stop by. And I said, well, no, this is not a UFO church. This is a Unitarian Universalist church. You are welcome here, but there's no UFO theology I'm preaching to you. And I bring it up in my sermons, and people know because they've seen me on TV or they've seen this, that, and the other, but I don't force it down anybody's throat. And some of them go, well, he's a nut, well, we like him or whatever, but it's my reality and I'm not hurting anybody. And, I do believe in love. I remember, who was the brother Dylan who went into that AME church and shot all the people up? And
Yeah.
and that's happened, a couple of times, right? And so we light candles, and we always light a candle at every service, whether it's a joy or a concern. So we light candles. So we lit candles for the victims, but I lit a candle for him because he was lost. He's lost.
Yeah.
And his life is over. Well, I don't know that. Maybe when he gets out, he will have changed. And people don't understand that, but you can't just light the candle when people behave the way you think they should behave. His parents are probably going, where did we go? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you gotta, if you're gonna love, or at least try to, then you gotta light a candle for Dylan. And you gotta light a candle from the folks who transition. It can't just be, otherwise it's, you're not being honest. I believe in love, but only if you act the way I think you should act. That's not love.
Yeah. See, I love that you're
True.
bringing that up.
That's so true.
Yeah.
you can't be.
So
you
because
can't be
I'm
doing
a
that.
I'm a former minister, I've kind of divorced myself away from what I call the American church.
Yeah.
And what I was going to ask, one of my personal questions was, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, was like, do you, in your ministry, do you work with people who have had these experiences, shared experiences like yours, or the negative ones?
Yeah.
Because we with our research team, the collective, and what we do is, I personally use that skill set that I acquired through ministry training to help these people process what happened to them and how to kind of step away from the trauma and get into a different mindset, so to speak. And but then you're bringing up the whole aspect of real love, and real love isn't just you're doing what I like you to do right now, so I'm going to be on your team and you're approved. But as soon as you screw up, I'm done with you. It's not how love works. It's not how love should operate, even though we've been told the lie that that's how it does.
No, I'm with you. And listen, I'm not, there's some people, listen, one of my spiritual heroes is Howard Thurman. He was Dr. King's mentor. He wasn't an activist, right? He said, Martin's the general, Martin's the activist. He said, my job is to make sure that people have the spiritual fortitude to go out here to march or whatever it is you're going to do. And so he was a deeply spiritual man, but he admitted, he said, there's some people I have to admit that I don't want to love. Yeah. He said, and my prayer is not to love. My prayer is make me want to love.
Yeah.
I thought that was so honest and human, but it was brilliant. It's because there are people I don't want to love. There are some people I don't want to love. I have to force myself. And I'm not talking about love like, kumbaya. I'm talking about the love like M. Scott, so many definitions. I love M. Scott Peck's definition of love in the Road Less Traveled. When I extend myself for the growth of another being. Now he said human being. I could say sentient. It could be the animal kingdom. But he said, when I extend myself so that you can grow, because if you grow, I'm going to grow too.
Yeah.
So I try to go there, and the people who don't agree, like some people used to come up to me at church, why you light a candle for him? What are you, nuts? But I just say, it's my church, it's my service, so I lit a candle. And that's the way it's going to go until you vote me out. But slowly but surely, they come around. They may not always agree, but I'm not saying you got to love Dylan. You may not ever light a candle.
Right.
I don't want to pick on Dylan. It's the brother that came to my mind. But and it's not just about race. Please don't. That's not what I'm saying. That was the thing that popped in my mind. You could do it for those cops who killed George Floyd. You could do it for anybody, black, white, rich, poor, gay, straight, trans, that we all mess up very badly. And I had a brother who was murdered. They never caught who did it. But that changes you. And you have to say, what is it that I really believe? Am I going to carry hate with me and act a fool? And no, I can't do that. I'm too old for that, man. I'll be dead in 30 years. I'm 65, man. I just turned 65. I'll be dead in 30 years, maybe 35. So I don't have time for that.
Right. And hate is such a poison to carry.
Man.
It's a poison that will just eat and corrode your soul.
And you're done.
And
yeah. It's divisive.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
Absolutely.
It's too heavy a burden. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff I was always on that path. They just expedited it. And so it was a great transformation for me. I worked at it, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like they just waved away. I was already reading and studying and praying and meditating. But when they came, I got more focused about who it was I said I wanted to be. I was an actor in New York. I was partying and drinking and sexing and drugging. And then they started coming, and they never said, no, you don't do that, because I'm a grown man. But I got it that you can do this, but this is not your best life. And so, I love a good time. It's in moderation.
It's kind of like the whole free will thing, isn't it?
You
have a choice.
You got a choice. Even not making a choice is a choice.
Making a choice. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It just fascinates me. The whole subject fascinates me. It almost seems like, and I'll go there again, right back down to the whole ancient astronaut theory, that this is akin to what some would have called back in the day the Watchers. These are beings that are watching over humanity, interfering with humanity, and they have a vested interest, it seems, whatever they are.
I will say this. Yes, there's just so many races, and it's hard to know. Maybe some of them have a prime directive. Maybe some of them don't. Obviously, some of them don't. But they've been here. And so, I don't want to generalize, because some of them are blonde, blue-eyed, some of them are green, some of them are blue, some of them you could get on an elevator and not even know. I mean, if you felt their energy, you could say, you're not from this neighborhood, right? You can feel it. But, and everybody's got, some people are just observing. Obviously, some get involved. The point is that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And the point is that we're violent, unevolved species, collectively speaking. There are people very evolved. And we are a danger to them, but more so to ourselves, because some genius, well, Oppenheimer and Einstein, that movie's coming out, Oppenheimer. I just bought the book called American Prometheus. But it's on my Kindle. But there's a book. I forget who's in it. A lot of stars are in it. I forget who plays Oppenheimer. I think it's a British actor. But we split the atom. Very dangerous. it's like you don't want to be doing that because
Yeah.
it reverberates through other dimensions and stuff. And so, not all, but some of them are trying to say, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing?" But we don't want to hear that. So I have hope, but I also know that that we can go so many ways. The climate, nuclear, that we could kill each other over different colors and who you sleep with
Yeah.
and crazy stuff like that. So it's a mess. But I think we could work this out. If we don't, then we don't. But I don't. I wanted to say at least I gave it a shot.
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of think that might be what we're seeing. We're seeing people like you come forward. And, like I said, when I read your book, I'm just like, so much of this is just cold chill city. Joe knows exactly what I'm talking about. We've had day-long conversations about some of the experiences I've had. And they're strange. That's all you can say about it. They're just strange. But the thing is,
Very
it's
high
not.
strangeness.
Yes, it's high strangeness, and it's so many people. And once one person comes forward, the next person comes forward, the next person, and it's this chain reaction. And it's almost like that's what it's all about. It's changing things slowly rather than this massive amount. And it's not just, take me to your leader stuff, right? It's well, you know what? We tried the whole leader thing. Let's talk to everybody. There is no leader. There is no one. There is only a us. So let's talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it seems like is happening, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not trying to generalize it, but that's kind of what you get from it. And like you said, there are so many reports of different sizes, shapes, colors, vibrations, the frequencies of these things. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
I really
and
never.
that's the diversity. That's the
Yeah,
diversity.
yeah. Diversity is a
That's
is a
diversity.
universal concept.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is something humanity has to learn. Diversity
You
is a
can't be
universal
afraid of
concept.
it. It doesn't mean divisiveness. You can still be unique. You can still, you're just as unique as everybody else. Or put it that way. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But
Yes.
it's a journey, brother, and you just do the best you can. I was telling Ron, it's been a week. One of my congregants she was found slumped over dead at her laptop. So whatever it was, maybe she didn't feel it. She just kind of out of her body. She was found dead. A colleague of mine, we grew apart. He was another minister. He was up in Rhode Island. He was going to officiate a wedding and he was going to scatter his brother's ashes. His brother died last year. He just collapsed. So, life is fragile. And, and as you get older, you have less time for BS because you're here for a minute and then you're on to the next. And so you kind of pick your battles, what's worth fighting over, one of the most important lessons I learned, and I had to give up the need to be right. Once I stopped having to be right, my life changed. Oh my God. And I got that mostly from Eastern thought and a little Western psychology, but a lot of the stuff is I have to be right. And of course, if you have to be right, then somebody's got to be wrong. And it was just a trans. Now, a lot of people didn't like that because even with this, people wanted to argue. I'm not going to argue. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I'm telling you what I think it was, what's happened, and take it or leave it. But once I got to be right, then then it's tension.
Yep.
Then it's tension. I don't care whether it's my relationships or, yeah, I don't have to be right. So I'm learning to put my ego in check, and my life just runs a little more smoothly. Yeah, yeah. That was a big one for me. And living down here, coming down here from New York and living here, I live in a beautiful, beautiful part of the country, and obviously there's a lot of not the prettiest history, but there are worse places to live. The thing is, what I'm getting to is people take the Bible pretty serious down here.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I went to seminary. I used to know a couple of languages. But the Bible I read and my interpretation is a little different, even without the UFO piece. I was trained to look at the Bible the way you would look at a newspaper: who, what, when, where, how, why.
Yeah.
And the contradictions and the literalism, the UFO reality overlays that now. Now things that my left brain would say that's impossible, now says, oh yeah, that happened.
Right.
But just because I don't want to take away anybody's faith. I don't want to disrespect and disregard the sacredness of the Bible, because it's a very profound and spiritual book. The Dhammapada, the Quran, I got them all over here. And at the same time, I just want to say, well, suppose we looked at this a different way. And for me, anywhere in the Bible where you see angel, which means messenger, what is it, melech in Hebrew? Anyway, and if you put star person, I don't like the word alien, it makes a different, it makes it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's got to, but it's a whole nother book.
Yeah, you're not
He's right.
wrong.
He's right.
It's another book.
You're absolutely right. And I love the fact that you do shy away from the word alien, because we don't know what that even is.
Well, it's just fear. It's fear. I don't understand you. You're different from me, so you're alien.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that with human beings.
You did it with abduction too, and I love that, because that was something I never ever liked to use that word, because that's a negative word, completely negative. There's no positive that can come from that ever. And a lot of these people do come to a positive recollection. Go ahead, Joe.
We're sitting right now at this pivotal point in our history, in this history that we've got currently rolling.
In this dimension, you mean?
Yeah, in this current run through, where we've got this kind of I don't know if I want to even call it a soft disclosure, but we have this.
That sounds good.
We have this this movement within the federal government now that was kind of spurned on, I mean, very spurned on by the public and private researchers and investigators and people like yourself who've studied the history, who have gone back and researched throughout all these texts and tomes of possible contact. And now we're at this like a cusp. It feels like we're right on the edge, but I don't know what's going to happen from here, because we've seen it before, kind of, but we've never seen them take it this seriously on a what's the best, like on a scale that is visible to the public.
Yeah.
So what is your takeaways currently with what we see going on and the possible futures that you see coming down the pipeline?
Wow. Okay, this is what I see. And Brother Ron and I were talking, we touched on it before y'all came. I think we're already in a disclosure.
Yeah.
Scenario.
Yeah.
Ron and I were talking about, but I can't trust someone who's been lying to me for 75 years or longer, and I'm not going to make mention of certain folks, but once you work for intelligence, you always work for intelligence.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. And so I think that the reason they're coming out with this now, they being, Caesar and those folks, is because one day there's going to be a sighting they can't explain away because of the technology that we have, and we have this.
Right.
And they need to be out in front of it. They have to be. Because then they're going to have to eventually come clean. You know, some people died because of this. You
Yeah.
know, saw things they shouldn't have saw, or they thought they were going to say. Um, so where we're going to go really depends on how fast our consciousness changes, our leaders, because we always have to have an enemy. And if you notice at the hearings, a lot of the stuff, oh, we'll talk about that in closed session. So, you know, it's not, they're not coming clean. You got to talk about it in closed session. I mean, I could have gone to work. I didn't have to sit here and listen to this. But, they're already starting to say they're a threat. They're already starting to say this. They're over our airspace.
Yes.
They turned off our nuclear. And yeah, they turned them off because you're going to blow yourselves up. I mean, Ray Charles can see that. Okay? But they can't see it. They're, you know, if they wanted to take over, if these folks wanted to take over, they really, come on. You know what I mean?
No
I mean,
challenge.
they got 35th century technology, 40th century, maybe more.
Yeah.
Okay? And we're just shooting little rifles and whatnot. So I see it going, and I don't know if you remember, it's in my room, Stephen Greer's book, Disclosure. And what's her name? Carol Chosen. She was friends with Werner von Braun, the Nazi who came in with Operation Paperclip. And he told her, now this was in the 70s, he said, first it's going to be Russia and China. Then it's going to be the Middle East. No, I forgot. It was Korea. It was Asia. Then it was the Middle East. He told her back in the 70s that we were going to have these wars. And he said the last one, I may have gotten the sequence wrong, the last big enemy was going to be extraterrestrials. He said this was already planned.
Wow.
And he talked about, get the book Disclosure, or just look up Carol Chosin. Her last name is Chosin. She's doing something with the UN about demilitarizing space, no nuclear weapons in space. She's heavy. But so all this stuff has been planned, and so we need an enemy. You always need an enemy. We spend more money on defense than any nation on the planet. We're not a republic. When you have 275, 300 bases around, that's an empire. That's an empire.
Yeah.
And so no wonder we can't knock off $10,000 for your education. No wonder we can't have universal health care. We need that money to go to black projects. And you know, who was the brother? Rumsfeld, when it was some $3 trillion they couldn't account for, some godforsaken them. I mean, I may be inflating it. So, but that's
I
right.
remember that whole mess.
Yeah. You know, I inflated the numbers, but so what? My government does. But my point being is that you got to change the way you think. I mean, people need health care. People need food. I get it. You want to defend Ukraine, but okay, but knocking off $10,000. You want well, you don't want an educated populace, but you know, come on, man.
No.
You
An
can't.
educated populace is dangerous.
It's dangerous, but I mean, this is good. This is getting out of hand.
No, he's right. It's the whole thing we talk about all the time: division. You know.
Yeah, keep you in fear.
Yeah.
You know, look out for this, look out for that, monkeypox, COVID, war, crime. And I'm not saying
aliens now, skies falling. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I keep you in fear, I can control you. It's just that simple.
Fear has always been the greatest mechanism for control.
Yeah. But people are waking up to it. And I think that's what's more dangerous. I don't know where I was going with all that, but back to you, Joe, just that's why I think that unless we kind of start changing the way we look at things, I'm talking about our leaders and the populace, that we're just going to wind up in a war, or at least declaring war on these beings. But even then we have to admit they exist.
Yeah.
but they're an enemy. They're
So
an
we're
enemy.
back to a genetic bottleneck when they wipe out all of us again, except for a select few.
Well, Reagan talked about, remember he said, I want
Yes.
this whole thing with like, and
Yes.
MacArthur talked about the next war would be in space.
Yeah.
And he said that back in what, 57, 50. So believe while we're asleep, that's what's so brilliant about these folks. They're brilliant, but they're like criminals. But imagine if they could turn all that energy for a little better world. But while we're sleeping, they're thinking, this is where we're going to be 30 years from now. This is where we're going to be. And, I get it. You don't want extraterrestrials telling us how to use 0 point energy, because then Exxon and British Petroleum, they lose their profits. You don't want them talking to us about diseases and stuff, because if they can get here in a ship, and the people who can get here without a ship is the one you want to really look at. But then cancer research, all that money, you know how much money goes into that? These lobbies, man, they would lose a lot of money if disclosure comes about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've
Absolutely.
got another question from Jeremiah Byron. He was curious about what your opinions were with the goings on at Skinwalker Ranch. I know it's kind of not in the immediate topic we've been in, but it does kind of pertain to these extra dimensional,
No, it's the topic.
Possibilities.
First of all, for Brother Byron, great question. I don't keep up with that as much, but I do know this. We've got to stop compartmentalizing. All of this stuff is high strangeness, but it all needs to go under paranormal and spiritual.
Yeah.
I think. Because we're at each other's throats. And that, ufologists are mad with who's the big hairy person who walks around?
There you go. There you go.
And they're
You're
mad. And they're mad with the people who see ghosts. And the people who see ghosts. I mean, it's. I want to smack them in the face. Anyway, my point being is that stuff needs to be taken seriously. That stuff needs to, just like we're taking UFOs seriously, because it's just stuff that we don't know about and we're afraid of it. But this stuff is real. You have to at least be there. You have to be. Yeah, we have to say yes to it.
He's so right.
Yes to it.
So now you kind of touched on it there a little bit, and as you can see, I have a mild affinity for the big hairy man.
I see.
What?
I see that behind you.
What's real brief? What's your take on the possibility of Sasquatch?
Oh, it's. I don't even think it's a possibility. I mean, I think it's real.
There we go.
And I got to tell you.
There you go, guys.
and I got to tell you, brother, sometimes they hang out with UFO people, I think.
We've got a lot of data.
I think they hang out with UFO people.
Yes.
Don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a lot of data that points to it that there's something going on.
They know each other or something. I mean, yeah.
There's something weird there.
They know each other, or they hang out. I don't know.
And then, all right, one more question. Eric McMillan, he was curious of your thoughts on the connections between Atlantis and Lemuria.
Lemuria, yeah. Wow.
That's a good one.
Yes, that's a whole episode, but like we're here for it.
Obviously, they're ancient civilizations. Everybody, all these cosmologies have a flood story. They all can't be lying, and they probably went down when Atlantis went down. Some folk went to Egypt and Africa. Some folk came to South Americas, because Atlantis was supposed to have been right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I know some people say Bimini, and I think Edgar Casey says Bimini. Well, I mean, they were more advanced than we were, using these crystals, being able to, having flying machines. These stories, again, they just need to be taken seriously, that we were not the pinnacle, we're not the pinnacle, and that all this knowledge that we're getting, people call it New Age or whatever, It's not New Age. It's old wisdom being rediscovered. And Atlantis, they had ships. I mean, they were in contact with extraterrestrials as well, if you read some literature, as was Lemuria. I think Lemuria was over in the Pacific, though.
Yeah,
I
Lemuria
think you're
is
right.
theorized to have been
And yeah,
above
they were
Hawaii.
they were using crystal energy and healing with sound, and they were carrying on. We could wind up like them. I mean, it depends on what story. Not so much Lemuria, but you had the righteous ones versus the unrighteous, these polar, thinking in duality. But Atlantis, I don't know. I think they played with the energies too much, and they kind of did themselves in, like we may do.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the Great Flood, and every cosmology talks about a time when the whole world was inundated by water. But I do know that some of those folks, from my readings and research, some folks survived. Can you imagine just surviving that? And they wound up going to Egypt, which Atlantis predates Egypt by several thousand years. And some folks went west and they wound up on the Yucatan and in South America, and they got the pyramid things going and the astronomy. They just kind of started all over.
Over 1,200 different flood mythologies, and it's all
And they all
everywhere.
happened 12,000 years ago.
Yes,
They all
12,500,
happened
12,000. Yes.
We've got a episode that I'm sure you would love. It was we've Fallen Worlds is a series that we do in between
wow.
this chain of episodes that we run, where it takes a deep dive into the destruction and then reconstruction of our world. And you'd love especially episode 2.
I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, we live in the literal Valley of the Giants, so that's at least I do. Joe is pretty close to it.
I'm really close to it.
So we've always had
and
this
I
stuff.
mean, if you subscribe to reincarnation, you probably lived during some of those times, which is why this stuff kind of resonates so much.
Which is very possible. Absolutely possible.
Yeah. Yes.
In my book, anyway.
Yeah. Me too.
Jessi, you're dying to say something.
I have nothing to say.
Oh,
No.
really?
Ron, I don't think you lived in the past. I think you live in the future, which is in the past because everything's a flat circle.
It's
So
all one.
It's all folded in on itself.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can live, like right now, we're probably somewhere else. You're living these parallel lives.
Yeah.
But like Eckhart Tolle tells us, there's the opposite of life is not death. The opposite of what is the opposite of life is not death. The opposite of life is birth, because life has no opposite. And of course, Einstein says, quantum physics says that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted. So your consciousness goes on. So you can live many lives at once. You can live lives and, you just go on.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Cheryl Costa had said on that one when she was talking to their master. Remember, she said, well, did you know me in a past life? And he's like, well, of course. And she's like, well, did I know this, and et cetera? And he said, well, how did you think that you learned all this? You didn't learn it all in one life.
You bring it with you into your next. Yeah, you bring your gifts. You bring your foibles too. You bring it all. But that's how we grow.
That's our luggage.
Yes.
And these little things that that can trigger it. From just symbolism to hearing certain words, all this kind of stuff. This is to some people that's magical. To experiencers, it's not. It's just like you said, a forgotten technology, a forgotten way of life that was once pretty much as common as us today in our silicone-based technology.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Pretty much the way I see it, anyway.
Very much so.
What do you think, Joseph?
Well, we're looking at a world essentially where we've got to come to grips with stuff, in a lot of different formats and in a lot of different ways. We've got spirituality that is at war with itself. We have society that is at war with itself. And these are repeating patterns that we've seen since the dawn of mankind, at least the recording dawn of mankind. Where we go from here is what is going to set the tone for how the outcome is going to be, in my opinion. And it is imperative that we look at these things in a way that instead of making them taboo, that we need to bring them into a position where we can communicate about them openly with formats like this, as well as in our religious circles.
Mm-hmm.
So the taboo that exists currently in a lot of religious circles, it needs it's going to take people like Reverend Michael, people like me who are in clergy who will step out and do things and have the conversation.
Yeah. This whole phenomenon, I'm speaking particularly of, of star people and that technology. I mean, that's whether it's the Nordics or basically or not. Basically, they're saying you don't get the toys until you develop your spirituality. The toys are going to kill you. We can show you how, not all of them, but we can show you how to cultivate your inner life, your spirituality, and then you can have your toys. But we got it the other way around. And so when people like us, we are anathema to Western science because Western science says, we can't, you're crazy. People walking through walls, people coming, we're anathema to that because the science it's antiquated. And so nobody wants to hear about their faults, or I'm not saying we're faulting them or criticizing. We're just saying you're not seeing something here. And so we're ostracized. We're punished. I'm not saying that we're being victimized. Well, we could be being victimized, but we're not victims. And so Western science has to evolve. And John Mack says it much more eloquently than I do, because you can't just close your eyes or say, like Galileo, I'm not going to look in that telescope because that planet's not supposed to be there. No, look, change, be willing to change, be willing to be open, and so religion, our institutions of higher learning, economics, this shatters all of it, and we can't have that. I'm not saying us, the powers that be, because it's working for us now. It's working for the 1% who have more money than probably half the planet. You know what I'm saying? And so we're just trying to say this old paradigm can't hold. It's untenable.
Yeah,
You can't
the
eat
old
your
paradigm
money.
has to be busted.
Yeah, you can't breathe your money. You can't eat your money. I mean, the planet, you're killing it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we didn't get to get into this with Cheryl much. She did speak about the various species that she had encountered, and we've got some time left here.
Sure.
And I think it'd be really interesting to hear your take, your encounters, and some of the descriptions that you could give about the species that you have encountered and that you're aware of, and just to fill us in a little bit, and some of the listeners that that are probably really curious about that themselves.
Hold on.
Sure.
I will bring you. Can you see the praying mantis?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I'll bring you some people.
This is perfect.
It is.
Oh, some of them I have. The reptilian brother I have upstairs. But
Oh, wow.
here's the guy who healed my blood clot. Hold on. I got him. I don't want to drop him. The reptilian is upstairs.
Joe, you need to make this guy some stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say he can send me some descriptions, and I can.
Oh, that's a
no,
good
that's
one.
I love
So,
where did you get that?
this brother or sister I got in New York, at a shop.
It's nice.
There's a woman named Carol McLeod who's a wonderful sculptor in every race that I see. We met at a UFO conference. She's a vendor. And so she makes the people I see. So I saw this individual back in 2013, came in my room. And this guy here, handsome guy, big muscular, he was big muscular. He had a hoodie on, not a hoodie, what do you call him, a cowl.
Like a cow.
When he came, he healed a blood clot I had. And the reptilian came in when I was living in New York. And here's my Arcturian friend.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But when I saw him, her, they didn't have the Bundy there. The artist put that there. But it's okay. It's a rendition. Looks like a priest. I like the little collar. So those are the beings that I saw. The reptilian is just a little bust. Real pretty eyes because they go like a cat, like that. The pupil yellow. A big muscular guy had on a wife beater, like a
tank top.
Yeah, very scaly. On two legs, had a tail. Said, "Don't be afraid" with his mouth. Easiest said for him. Walked right through my wall in New York. This brother came on, healed my blood clot on July 4th, 2013 at 9:50 p.m. I don't know if you know Preston Dennett. I called Preston. He wrote 2 books on UFO healings. He'd be a great guest for your show. And I called him to say, man, you got to, but he was out because, 10 minutes to 10 here is 10 minutes to 7 there. He's out on the coast. But those are the people that I've seen. It's diversity. Did they scare the what out of me? Yeah, because anybody would. If I walk through your wall tonight, we had a night show and it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm leaning over your bed. Hey, Joe. Hey, Ron. Hey, it's Michael. You'd be like, what? If you had a gun or something, you'd probably say, what? So, hey, Jessi, it's Michael. So, and I look like I look. I mean, I'm anthropomorphic. Now imagine if I look like that. Hey, Jessi, it's me.
He's got a point.
Right.
You'd be
I
like,
guess you definitely would meet the bedside Glock at that point.
yeah.
He has got a
Or if I
point,
look like
though.
this, hey, Joe, what a show we had tonight.
Right.
You'd be like, So, but it's changed my life for the better. And, my partner, she accepted me. All the women in my life accepted me. They hung in with me. We broke up or we got divorced, but it wasn't because of that. So I was very fortunate that way. And it just taught me a lot about myself. And I believe we can turn this thing around, man. But even if we don't, I just want to be able to say, I tried. I tried to make it, I tried to leave it a little better than when I found it. And to whoever's running it, I don't believe in a God that has arms and legs, that's anthropomorphic. I look at it more of like an energy, an intelligence,
right.
Not Santa Claus. If I'm naughty, you're going to barbecue me for eternity. But I know that when I can line up with that intelligence, I come down here, I meditate, and these people, I put them around me. They represent something nice. I got a Jesus meditating here, and I got a big one upstairs. I got a Buddha meditating with a robe on that Carol McLeod, that's what I was trying to tell you.
McLeod.
She lives in Nevada. If you ever want her number, she makes the most wonderful star people art, busts and stuff like that.
We may run into her
anyway,
one day. You never know.
That's where I'm coming from, man. I'm coming from a place of peace.
I love
as
it.
much
I
as I.
mean, your concept of God is absolute. It's a force, a power. It's that's something that, and people don't understand that. They
It's like
always,
what they call it. They see it that way too. It's not someone up in the sky going, "Oh, Joe, I'm gonna get him. He didn't say his prayers today. Where does he
Right.
live? Oh, I know where he lives." No.
Right.
it's so true. And it's like, I remember when I started first talking about, the whole ancient astronaut theory thing to people, and they're like, "Oh, well, you don't believe in God." I'm like, "Well, no, it's not that. This makes you not really believe anymore. You know there's something there. I don't
Yeah.
need to know what it's absolutely called. Like me and Joe say all the time, it's labels. I think you even touched that in one of your things. That was another cold chill moment in your book. Is like when you had said something about it doesn't matter what we call these things. It's all just basically we're labeling things. You're
Yeah.
right. We are. We're labeling
You don't
things
need to.
that for
You
no
just
words.
need to call. You just need to call on it
Yep.
when you need it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what I've learned, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, yeah, and you know it too. I like Platonic thought because Plato says that all learning is remembering. That we already know this stuff. We may have forgotten it, but nothing I said here is new. Nothing is. Well, this is just the way it is, and you forget. But you know, what better way to learn to accept? What better way to learn to forgive? What better way to learn to love than to be around people who don't think like you?
Yeah.
Mother Teresa said, "You want to save the world, go home and love your family."
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, you want to learn how to love? Thanksgiving, talk politics.
I'd rather not.
I don't know if you learn how to love. I may wind up needing a lawyer, a homicide. But
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, because you got to learn to accept the people, even when you disagree with them. I don't have to be your best friend. I don't have to buy you a drink. But I realize that you're a human being and you're trying to make it like I am. And that may be all we have in common. And that's okay. But that's how you grow. Because, football players don't hang out with chess players, right? Not that they're bad people, but you hang out with people who have the same frequency you do. And that's what you draw to you. For the most part, flies come to the light as well, but basically it's about your vibration. And that's what you attract and what you focus on. And so I got a next door neighbor. He's a retired uh, state trooper from a little town in Georgia. He's an evangelical Pentecostal Christian. And every time he sees me, he wants to lecture me about the Lord. And he presses my buttons. Now, and I have to tell him sometimes, "Hey man, we don't have to talk about that. I see it different than you do." The other day he was telling me about my daughter. He's never met my daughter. Yeah, what does she do? Well, she's in high school. What does she want to do with her life? Well, she sings, she's an athlete, she wants to go into psychology. Well, she's got to be a Christian. Why? Why does she have to do that? And I'm hanging in with him because he's my neighbor.
Yeah.
I don't like, I like my privacy. I say hi. He's chatty. My point being in all that is that, you got to learn to navigate that, even if and still maintain your humanity. So there's always going to be personalities. My personality rubs people the wrong way. So how do I navigate that? You know what I mean? Because when I do that, I'm doing just as much for the world as if I was a diplomat going over to talk to Putin and talk to Brother Zelensky and say, "What are y'all doing here?" What I'm doing is just as important. I don't even know if they got any diplomats doing it anyway. I don't. I mean, I don't. You don't hear
Yeah,
anything
right.
about
Yeah. You
any
don't hear anything about
peace
that.
talks. You don't hear anything. So and that's how I'm looking at it. How do I get along with my neighbor? Okay, literally. And to me, that's what it's about. It's not grandiose. It's not going to be on Fox or MSNBC, but I'm just trying to take care of what you gave me. You know,
Yeah.
you gave me this little patch of land, and I'm trying to give it to you back better than I found it. It's not going to make the papers, but let me tell you, this is hard.
Yeah.
Because some of these people, I just want to throw water on their face.
Yep. It's rough.
It's rough, brother. Come
We
on.
so get it. Believe you me.
It's rough, man.
Yes, it
We're still
absolutely
talking
is.
about arguing over skin color and what you did last, 500 years ago. I get all that. It's important. But man, we got to go
Now,
over it. Yeah, because
yeah,
otherwise, I swear to God, we're done.
Yeah, you're
see,
not wrong.
I
We've
can
talked
say
about
this
this
stuff
a
a
thousand
million
times.
times, but it's not me saying it this time. So he has a lot more credibility, guys, than I do or ever will, and he's
Well,
speaking
I
the
mean, if you're
truth.
going to talk about, let's say we're talking about race, yes, I'm a person of color this lifetime. I'm not saying, see, and that's the thing. Two things can be right. It's like the Middle East. The Palestinians are right, and the Jewish folk are right. Those are the hardest things to navigate because you're both right. It's easier when one person's wrong. So, yeah, I'm not saying that we don't have to look at the legacy of slavery. Of course we do. We're still living through it. But I'm saying
Yeah.
at some point, there's got to be some forgiveness,
Yeah.
okay? Because I can't change that. I'm growing from that. I'm learning from that. But where are we going to go now? Like Dr. King said, you may come over on a immigrant ship. I came over on a slave ship, but we're all in the same boat now. And it's a big ass hole in it.
Yeah.
But I can swim, so I ain't worried about it too much.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, you get my drift.
Oh yes.
We've got to deal with race. We've got to deal with it.
Yes.
We've got to deal with climate. We've got to deal with, but along the way, when the government comes out and says, we lied to y'all. Some of y'all we killed, some of y'all we took away, eventually, in order to move forward, we're going to be mad, remember apartheid and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You needed all that. And then some forgiveness had to creep in order to go forward. But if you can't do that, then you're stuck. then it's over. It's so many ways it can be over.
He's so right.
There's so many ways it can
Yes,
be
there
over, man.
is. There
But it's a
is.
lot of ways that it doesn't maybe, but you gotta forgive, man. You just, I had a cop put a gun up to my head once. I'm telling you. And I did a lot of drugs in those days, but that's not why he pulled us over. But I was real young at that time. And he put a shotgun here. He said, if you turn your head, I'm not even going to get into it. And I'm going to tell you something, brother. Colors were brighter.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because it's like my friends who fought in Vietnam. When it's everything is heightened because it's really life and death here. I'm not trying to be trivial with it. It's like meditation. When you really focus and it's like, oh my God. Well, I mean, it got my attention. My point is though, I could have let that experience, and everybody's different, so everybody doesn't have to do it Michael's way. But I'm just saying, I could still be living in that place, and then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So if you're stuck, you got to become unstuck. You just got to, otherwise you can't move forward. You can't. You can't. Look at Brother Netanyahu. I get it. A Palestinian killed your brother or whoever. I got it. But brother, you got hate? Look at what you're doing here, man. Well, now, he's not prime minister anymore, but he's got some issues, brother. That brother's got some serious issues because he's stuck back because that happened, and that's painful. I get it. But you can't stay there. Well, you can.
But it's not going to do you any good.
But how's that working for you?
Yeah, you have a good point. We have, the potential to be.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we have the potential to be something so much more. And the only way we're going to do it is if we pull ourselves out of the sand.
That's it.
And stop trying to divide and stop trying to.
And stop trying to have to be right and have
Yes.
that two things can be right.
Yes.
And that's what makes it hard. Yes, people still come to America because where they live, they don't have the opportunities. And they come here. And yes, we got a really racist country that we need to deal with. Yes, America's beautiful and there's a lot of opportunity here. And yes, we got a lot of haves and have nots. They're both right. It doesn't have to be one versus the other. They just have to be dealt with. They have to be dealt with.
There's got to be a meeting in the middle.
I think we
Yes.
see the real reason for these transformations at this point, because that is a transformative thought, what you are saying. So maybe,
Yeah.
just maybe, if
Sometimes,
that
look,
is,
sometimes my partner's right and sometimes I'm right. But if I
yes,
say I'm right all the time, she's going to leave me.
yeah, there you go. There has to be a
And vice
balance.
versa.
Yes.
That's just the law of averages. Nobody's
Yeah.
right all the time. Wow.
So true.
This has
So
been an
true.
absolute blast of a show.
We got to do it again.
Michael, I want you back on the
Absolutely.
show
We're
again, my
it-
friend.
Yeah, we could
We're
get into the
definitely gonna do
Bible
that
stuff. I
again,
brought out,
and-
we can get into the Bible and stuff.
Oh, that'll
Oh
be
yeah,
great.
that'd be fun.
Yes.
Um,
We're scheduling
so
it.
I want you to
Yeah.
hang on the line here with us, Michael. So
Sure.
don't jump away yet for us.
Okay.
But it's been a great show. Thanks everybody for listening. Jess, do you
Yeah,
want to
y'all
take
are
us
great.
home?
Yeah, y'all are great.
You can take us home if you'd like to, because I'm having an issue over here.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the show. It has been an absolute blast. Thank you for listening in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe everywhere on all social media platforms. So you can find Jessi at Hellbent Jessi on Instagram. Ron is Lanham Ron on Instagram. I'm Skinwalker Sculpts on Instagram. We're going to put links to some of our new social media stuff that we got coming out as well. If you've had a sighting or you've experienced something strange and bizarre, you can always head over to wildandweirdwv.com. You can report your sighting at the sightings tab, and we will be back with you very, very soon. Remember also, we have Wild and Weird Con coming up in just a couple short months, and Ron and I are also speaking at Mothman Festival 2022. You do not want to miss that one. It's going to be a blast. This is the first time back to Mothman Festival in 2 years. I'm so eager for it. And remember, go over to Hellbent Holler on YouTube. Make sure you tune in there every single week. She has new content dropping all the time. Jessi and Joe have a podcast that they're rolling out now called Dark Dives, and you definitely want to tune into that. That is on the same Hellbent Holler channel that all of their other content comes to. So go check that out. Make sure you subscribe and listen every single week. So where can the good people find the good Reverend's books and content?
The good people can find the Good Reverend's books at Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. And you can if you go to my website, which is, what is it? michaeljscarter.com. Well, actually, that's my email. Anyway, however you contact me, Reverend Michael J. S. Carter is the website. I will answer you. So send it, email me. I will respond. It's nice to age gracefully. Yeah, I had a moment. So no, that's it. Please buy the books. I'm going to be in Flint, Michigan, the weekend of September 22nd to 25 with Kathleen Martin and some other very talented people. We're going to have, it's my first conference since COVID.
And remember, Ancient Astronaut Theorists say yes.
Say yes.
Stay wild and weird, everybody.